Broadcasting live from our studio in Boston, Solutions Review is proud to showcase Cloudflare in the Solution Spotlight, a unique online event for industry professionals. I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring Cloudflare, and focused on how to regain IT and security control. In a recent Forrester Consulting study commissioned by Cloudflare, 39% of IT and security respondents admitted that their organizations have lost control over their digital environments due to complexity challenges. Lost digital control can have consequences on customer experiences, employee productivity, time to market, risk profile, and more. So a new approach is needed to address this critical business challenge and help organizations avoid these pitfalls and restore control. Cloudflare, along with Forrester, has organized a deep presentation today on just this topic. So I'll hand this event over to them and be back at the end to wrap things up.
Welcome to Cloudflare's webinar on how to regain IT and security control. My name is Amit Chaudhry, and I am the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Cloudflare. And today, joining me to deliver this webinar is Heath Mullins. He's a Senior Analyst at Forrester. I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit of what we wanted to cover today. The agenda is packed. It's about current landscape across IT and security. We all are in a position where we know that business leaders are facing a new and increasingly daunting imperative where everything and everyone needs to be everywhere. And employees are scattered around the world, inside the office and out working in multiple devices. And there are certain challenges that everybody is facing. So, we're going to talk about the current landscape across IT and security. We're going to be talking about how managing these sprawling complexes and applications and everything is hugely complex, and how and why do our CXOs, the CIOs and CISOs are finding that they're losing control. Then we're going to spend some time on talking about how Cloudflare can solve this problem through what we call as connectivity cloud. And then after that, Heath and I will do a little bit of Q&A. We'll take questions from you and try to answer them as best as we can. So with that, I want to kind of take a little bit of a moment to set the context, Heath, if that's okay with you, and hand it over to you after that. So we talk about the fact that everybody is the businesses are facing a new and daunting and increasingly daunting experience because of the fact that everything is spread out, the applications are everywhere, applications are moved to the cloud. Because of that, you need to modernize your network, and because of modernizing the network, that allows you to, or the users to connect to those applications directly. You also need to modernize the security so that you're not kind of getting all the cyber attacks that earlier used to be protected because things were behind in the data center. Not only that, I think it's also become impossible to have 100% foolproof security to secure access because the attack surface area is increasing as more and more applications are moving. Developers are building those applications in the cloud. You have S3 buckets. You have all kind of Kubernetes clusters which are all over the place. And it seems that companies are losing control and they're not able to figure out how to get the security in the order. And last but not the least is because a lot of the investments have been made in security, which are the legacy security infrastructure, and they cannot scale up with all that is happening. You're kind of falling a little bit behind just to solve those immediate problems, let alone kind of preparing for the future. So with that being the background, let me hand over to Heath, and he's going to give his context and his understanding of what he has seen in the market after having obviously connecting with a lot of CISOs and the enterprise customers. Over to you, Heath.
Okay, thank you. So, hey, everybody. I'm Heath Mullins, a Senior Analyst here at Forrester. Here's my big bio slide. I hate my picture, so please forgive it. I've got a really big and deep diverse background within cybersecurity and IT, generally speaking. I cover an awful lot of things. One of the primary coverage areas being zero trust in the U.S. federal government, along with all the other aspects of that, network security, cloud security, so on and so forth. So what I really wanted to talk to you guys today about was really some of the market drivers that are pushing this digital transformation, this big cloud move, right? So the big push to the cloud started right around 2014, 2015, where everybody wanted to go, and then they kind of figured out, well, it might be expensive, but this is what an elastic instance looks like, and oh my gosh, look at our new bill. How are we going to manage this moving forward? So it's taken some time and some fine tuning for organizations to figure out what they're doing. Now, the majority of organizations out there, they do have some sort of cloud presence. Now, whether that is a off-the-shelf offering like ServiceNow, something like that, or if it's a private cloud that you're using as a data repository, data lake, or application hosting area, it's pretty diverse. A lot of folks are still hybrid, and that is 100% okay. I want to reinforce that concept because it's okay to go full cloud. It's okay to take your time and go to the cloud as well, because one thing you really want to ensure is that you're actually doing things correctly. You don't want to just jump in and just throw everything into the cloud, because you're going to run into issues, especially when you're trying to figure out, what does this connectivity look like? What are the dependencies created by this? And how am I going to secure this environment in an effective manner without impacting my user base, my customers, or my analysts that have to actually deal with this on a day-to-day basis from an operational standpoint? So looking at some of the trends here that we pulled, this is data from our 2023 surveys. This is both business and technology and digital strategy looking here. So when we're talking to these respondents about this, right around 1,500 decision makers globally, very large organizations, we're really looking at, these folks are looking to push towards their digital transformation. They understand that it is a lot easier today than it has been in the past to move applications and repositories and data into the cloud and effectively manage it. Now, the effectively management can get kind of a little kludgy depending on what that organization looks like and what their networking principles were to begin with. If you were already all over the place and you didn't have your house in order, you're going to find it to be more difficult to move than perhaps if you had everything laid out correctly, you were doing defense in-depth security already, or you're pushing towards zero trust. So really just being mindful of those ideas, not adopting is a very, very low number. That's 15% of these 1,400 respondents said, no, we're not going to do that right now. Now, that may be because it's already in place, or it could be that they said, we're not doing that, or we don't have any plans to. Perhaps it's a very specific organization that says, we have to have our things on site because X. That could be security, IP, could be things to do with the government, highly regulated industry, something along those lines. So when we start looking at, what are your organization's top priorities for customer-facing technology over the next 12 months? So everybody's kind of pushing towards or continuing the transition to SaaS, as well as modernization of the legacy technology. Now, there's a lot of places that don't do this very well, and I'm going to hedge that a little bit with this statement. In organizations that are very, very mature, they've been around for a very long time. The federal government is a great example. If you're still reliant upon AS400s running in your basement, you're going to have problems porting this technology into the cloud. And that's a really big issue, because it's not just the federal government that has these issues. It's also, think big banks. Anybody that's still running this technology, old manufacturing, or I should say well-established manufacturing, there's still a lot of people reliant upon this older legacy technology that does not translate very well into the cloud. And really an indicator of that is all of a sudden COBOL programmers they're the bee's knees. There's no COBOL programmers left anymore, and yet everybody needs COBOL to effectively move this stuff into the cloud off of these old Unix-based systems. So consolidating and reducing the overall numbers of solutions in the ecosystem. I'm going to talk a little bit about this later on, but just put that in your back pocket that this is something that's happening. Best of breed technology is absolutely still a thing. Niche technologies are absolutely still a thing, but consolidation is moving to the forefront of these decision makers' minds. And then, even getting into the beginning of the transition to SaaS. So perhaps the laggards or the folks that were really waiting to see what it looks like from an actual operational perspective. And they say, we've talked to enough people, we've done enough research, we have the right folks in place to start to move our stuff into the cloud. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic that people are moving forward in such a fashion. So moving along, and sorry if it's an eye chart, guys. I actually have a larger version of this on my screen because I can't read it on the little screen either. But rest assured, there are actual statistics on the screen. So which of the following actions will drive your organization to purchase or upgrade your network in the next 12 months? So, right off the top, you look at the top four, adopting or expanding the use of cloud platforms, adopting or expanding Internet of Things and edge computing, consolidating IT infrastructure. This is a really big one. This is where we start getting back into that conversation around the hybrid architecture and what it looks like to meaningfully and do it well, moving your existing infrastructure into a cloud environment over which you may have limited control or total control. It really depends on the flavor that you choose and how you choose to, create your policies and what your security is going to look like. I mean, there's a lot of things involved in this that may not come to the top of mind when you're in your planning stage, but will become very apparent when you're actually moving your resources into a cloud environment. Same thing with SDN and SD-WAN and just consolidating the application portfolio, generally speaking. So this is really important, and I really want you guys to focus on this because this is what's happening today. This is not stale data. This is not old data. This is what's happening today, and this is what our clients, my clients, are talking to me about on a daily basis. So moving right along, if I can find my clicker, there we go. So one of the things that I want to talk about is there's new responsibilities. Over the past 5 years, there's been a lot of change that has occurred. Now, some of this is market driven, and some of this is because there's not that many folks out there that are in IT or cybersecurity. When you think about this from a holistic perspective, these numbers and this information doesn't just affect your security folks. It also affects your IT organization. And the old way of doing things is, here's my silo for enterprise IT, here's my silo for security, and what do? They do this all the time. They're butting heads, this is my stuff, I don't want you to touch my stuff. It's still very, very common to have those very well-defended silos within an organization. Now, it's time to really tear those down. If you are in any kind of a zero trust push, if you are in any kind of, or even you're expanding, maybe you're not moving towards zero trust yet, you're still kind of building up your defenses or refining your security posture, cooperation across the organization is actually absolutely imperative, right? So as we're coming up on this, we didn't necessarily have these responsibilities 5 years ago. 5 years ago, what does your hybrid workforce look like? Probably some executives, perhaps your sales teams, maybe even IT is offshored, something along those lines. But it wasn't really that big of a deal. And then, of course, COVID happened, and what happened? Everybody went home. And so they created all new opportunities for failure as well as success. So getting into the ensuring compliance with government regulations, if you are not in the federal government right now, but you are in a highly regulated industry, if you're in critical infrastructure, if you're in banking, if you're in healthcare, zero trust mandates are coming for you. Now, I don't mean to say that the government is going to say you absolutely have to do this or you can't operate. That's not the case. What it will happen is they're going to say, in order to connect to our networks, you have to have security posture X or be moving towards zero trust or have certain aspects of it implemented in order to connect to our systems. That's going to be a big deal. The zero trust mandate was, 2020 and 2021. So it's coming. So you should really be prepared for that, regardless of your industry. Generally speaking, it's a very good thing to do, but regardless of your industry, you should really be focused on the fact that this is coming in some shape or form to you. Ensuring connectivity for in-office workers, that's kind of a neat one because people are still remote, but the push is coming to go back in. So that's kind of a neat statistic, simply for the fact that, I need to be able to touch all my stuff. I can't just sit in my office and say, I have my four walls. Well, I need access to the cloud properties as well. And then same thing for going into the securing and managing the applications in public cloud environments. This is a big deal. You can't just put something out there and assume that everything is going to be okay, because chances are it is not. So moving right along. So top challenges. Now, this reinforces, I can tell you from the inquiries that I take from my client base, this is happening everywhere. Evolving user types, difficulty in maintaining and improving team productivity, the growing attack surface areas. Good grief, attack surface management has exploded, among vendors as well as among users, to ensure that, hey, am I as secure as I think I am or as I hope I am? And compliance, compliance again, whether you're a federal organization or pseudo-federal organization, or if you are somebody that falls within that critical infrastructure, you don't want to be the face of the next breach. So you really need to ensure that you're preparing yourself to protect against that as best as you possibly can. So when you start thinking about this, as more of an overall push, the common theme here is that everything is just expanding exponentially. So, I've got cloud properties to manage now. I've got on-premise devices to manage now. I've got remote users to manage now. And everybody has to be able to securely connect to my data, to my resources in a fashion that is easily tracked, easily traceable down to the session data, and really understanding who's touching what, when, where, and why. So this is what's going to happen if you really don't address these things, right? So user types and growing number of users to support. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but it's not a huge eye chart, but it's a little bit of one. But look at the things. What are the commonalities here? So what's being impacted if you're not adequately addressing your security and IT postures and what your organization looks like? Customer experience, employee experience, that's experience. So that's CX and EX. One thing that's actually not in here is AX. The analysts that have to actually manage this stuff in your SOC and your NOC and your help desk and the overall IT organization. So you're going to be impacted. Your business is going to be impacted by these. So if you cannot maintain and improve IT and not only just the productivity, but also along the fact that it's not just about being productive in your job as a IT professional or a security professional. That's going to impact everybody else, right? So if you make things too difficult to navigate, what are your employees going to do? Well, they're going to figure out ways around it. If you make me log in 6 times to get to one thing and I have to do it every 15 minutes, I'm going to figure out a way to access that resource that doesn't require oversight, or try and find a backdoor, or talk to my neighbor in the next cube and say, hey, what are you doing to get around this? This is such a pain. You don't want your IT tickets to explode when you implement security. The idea of really good security is that it's seamless and it's not visible. You don't want your folks to have to deal with all the problems created when you're trying to secure something. I don't care what that asset is. You really need to ensure that your folks are able to do their job effectively, or you're going to have impacts across the entire business, not just your security, not just your IT, but it's going to affect your overall bottom line from a productivity standpoint. So when we're going through these things, just keep that in mind. Keep that in your back pocket. This is really important stuff. You don't want to make it hard to do anybody's job. You want this to be seamless or as seamless as possible. Seamless is probably a bit of a stretch, but as seamless as possible. So let's talk about benefits of a connectivity cloud a little bit. So 96% of the respondents in this survey, they believe a connectivity cloud would be valuable to their organization. And this is really why. So, 49% think that it'll help accelerate digital transformation. Digital transformation is the big deal. Everybody wants to do it. It's the latest and greatest. Let's push everything to the cloud. Fantastic. But what comes along with that? So you're reducing your attack surface area, right? And you're doing that by putting things, whether you're doing multi-cloud, multi-tenant, hybrid deployments, whatever that is, by monitoring these ingress and egress points and controlling access to these different repositories, different applications, you're actually reducing your attack surface area because you have more granular and tighter controls around it. It's not just the day of here's my firewall, here's my DMZ, here's my proxy. we that's still absolutely essential, parts of a robust security posture. But you can't just sit there and go, oh no, I'm good. My cloud provider is good, and they said that I don't have to worry about that. You have to worry about that, and you have to pay attention to that. So when we start talking about the business benefits, you're going to see an increase in productivity, an increase in your improving your time to go to market, and your overall revenue is going to grow. Now, that's an interesting statistic right there around growing overall revenue. That's really around the time savings and the cost savings that you're going to have by implementing your digital transformation strategies and moving to a connectivity cloud type solution that allows you to access things from anywhere with easy oversight and the easy application. And easy may be a stretch again. It's really going to depend on your organization, your deployment, and your employees' skill sets on the ease of use here and pushing forward. So that's really what I had there. But I just wanted to add one more thing. So when we're talking about, especially talking about IT and cybersecurity, there is not a lot of folks out there. Everybody's dealing with the same thing right now, the same problem, and that is we don't have enough qualified personnel. So if I leave you with anything on this, I would really like for you to be sure to take care of your people, provide opportunity for advancement, and really, hold them close and near and dear to your heart, because without them, you can have all these great plans, but if you don't have the right people in place, then you're just going to kind of falter on that. So with that, Amit, back to you.
Oh, thank you, Heath. Thank you for those wonderful insights. I think the things that you just mentioned is something that we are seeing as well. As we talk to our customers as well, and talk to prospects within our ecosystem. I think you talked about digital transformation, and I wanted to kind of spend a little bit more time explaining to folks about what digital transformation is fundamentally changing from an infrastructure standpoint. I think we all agree that for almost 3 decades, a large part of our entire IT and security landscape kind of revolved around the fact that there was a definite perimeter, and people used to be in an office which was defined as a perimeter, and the applications would reside in the data center. And to be able to access those applications, it was very easy to connect with them through LAN or through any of those networks. And everything that happened over those years was always kind of, optimizing that experience for them. How do you make that better? And of course, VPNs came along and people started moving out of the offices, but still the idea was that, look, you're going to be connecting to the office, or you're going to be connecting to the application in the data center through the VPNs. Remote work started and so on and so forth. I think you made the point, which is that in the pandemic is where fundamentally this whole transformation happened, because now and quite honestly, coupled with the fact that people were moving those applications to the cloud, and moving those applications to the cloud, everybody was looking for an experience that allowed them to connect to those applications directly. It just didn't make any sense that you're sitting at home, or you're sitting in a coffee shop, or you're sitting somewhere remote, and for you to be able to access those applications, you have to go still connect from the VPN to the data center and then go to the cloud. Everyone was kind of looking for an experience where you have direct access to the applications and essentially do your work. And we saw that in pandemic, a lot of the companies actually went through the transformation, good and bad. And last but not the least, when that transformation was going on, when that network transformation was going on, I think it was important to recognize its impact on security. Security had to be transformed as well. And as the applications were no longer going through the whole checklist of VPNs and firewalls and DMZs and whatnot, and if you're going directly to the cloud, you had to obviously kind of think about how do you really transform that experience to your customers as well in a more secure manner. The point that I'm trying to make here is that a lot of things changed in the last few years, and quite honestly, it came at such a huge pace that it did not give. It kind of shook everyone. The CIOs and the CISOs and all the stakeholders within within the organization, they obviously want to deliver the best service to their end users. They always want to make sure that the applications are easily available. But at the same time, they're also struggling with a huge amount of challenges. So this particular slide actually captures some of very strategic initiatives that our customers are grappling with. How do you build and manage digital applications? In the world that we are today, where the government regulations, the compliance requirements, the set of regulatory pieces that everybody has to follow to make sure that the data is secure, so that the information is secure, is kind of making it even more challenging to build and manage the digital application. On the other hand, you cannot really now scale it up by building applications in the data center. One of the things that I want to talk about the fact is that Europe just came out with a new regulation where a large part of their new data has to be within the European boundary. India came out with their own GDPR equivalent, and PCI 4.0 is coming up. So how do you part of the challenge for the CISOs is that they need to be able to maintain those levels of compliance and regulatory requirements while at the same time delivering those fantastic applications that the promise of the cloud delivers. So the challenge, of course, is how do you take legacy tools and compliance and some of those pieces and take it along to build the application. The second part is multi-cloud management. I come from a background of cloud where I used to be at one of the hyperscalers, and one of the things that came together was that when it came to building applications in the cloud, no one was interested in putting all their eggs in one basket, which basically means that today we have applications across the enterprise, across one of the three, or rather all the three hyperscalers. And the issue for that, of course, is that how do you make those applications talk to each other without actually breaking, the requirements that come with composability and the uniqueness of each of those cloud services. The challenge there is that you get locked into some of those attributes of that. If you are in AWS, you can only kind of operate within AWS, and if you're in Azure, you have to kind of have to figure out a different way to be able to have this communication and applications talk to each other. Third one is secure hybrid workforce. We talked about the security aspect and everybody moving outside of the perimeter and being in the remote location. The attack surface, of course, you talked about, I talked about the fact it's just increasing. And more importantly, the other part of this is that the bad actors actually are becoming far more sophisticated, and just the investments that people have made in the older technology is not able to keep up with the new and sophisticated attacks that are happening. Operational costs, the costs are increasing because of all the applications and of all the vendors. The sprawl is humongous. So, some of the challenges that are reflected on this particular slide is real. This is becoming more and more of a reality. You can argue to say that, we should not do one part of this transformation because that will save us. But that's not what the goal is. The goal is that, you want to kind of be in a position to deliver the best experience to your customers, the best experience to your users, able to grow the business because there's tremendous opportunity, but at the same time, kind of doing it in such a way that some of these strategic initiatives are met and some of these challenges are addressed. So let's talk a little bit about how we move that. So the underlying story is there's one word that in my mind, if I can basically talk about why this complexity is increasing, is because of sprawl. So we touched a little bit about that. Everything is spread out, of course, the applications, infrastructures, users, data, and that creates this new set of challenges. The challenges that are only going to get worse. The advent of AI, automation, new tools is only going to overwhelmingly challenge the status quo. A status quo that, of course, we know is built on legacy system and processes, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's security, whether it's data management, or anything else to do. So the solution to this particular predicament or the challenge in my mind is something what we call as connectivity cloud. A connectivity cloud essentially is a radically different approach to connect protect, and accelerate the business, enabling everyone and everything to connect to everywhere while kind of retaining a complete control. So a connectivity cloud is something that Cloudflare is championing, which essentially delivers any-to-any connectivity. It delivers multi-cloud flexibility. It allows a secured workforce, and at the same time, be able to deliver AI and innovative applications to our customers. So we have been championing this aspect based on some of the things that we have learned from our customers. Cloudflare is in a very unique position to be able to deliver that because we have the world's largest network. We have almost about 300 locations worldwide, many locations in different regions that have one of the most comprehensive and the fastest network that enables the customers to be connected to their users or to their applications at less than 50 millisecond time interval. Because of the composability as well as a single control plane, we have the ability to protect some of that information or rather most of that information that flows through the network through a variety of secure services that we deliver. And last but not the least, because of our ability to run and manage those locations worldwide, we also have services that allow the developers to build serverless architectures on those edge locations so that they can deliver rapid, fast applications to their users in those places. So connectivity cloud is a huge part of our understanding of delivering the power of the platform, power of Cloudflare platform, that again, I want to reiterate it, connects, protects, and accelerates customer experiences all across the world. And this is done again, there are 4 attributes that we deliver as part of this connectivity cloud experience. Number 1 is deep integration. We have a composable architecture that is enabled to deliver every service from every location, ensuring integration of these services at all desired locations. Number 2, it's programmability. It's all API based. We have API programmable layer, which is layer 1 to 7 connectivity. The build API enables serverless applications that are decoupled from the tech stack and are interoperable with all the services at all locations. Number 3 is the security part, which is a platform intelligence, and that is inherently built in within our network. We have all our applications are delivered on a secured network. We run almost 20% of the world's internet, and therefore we take this responsibility very seriously to ensure that we deliver security at all stages of this connection points for our customers, whether that's at the internet, whether it's protecting their employees, or whether it's protecting their network. And it's supported by the fact that we have a huge amount of ability to collect the data to be able to run AI models that essentially delivers predictive capability to be able to thwart or recognize these attacks even before they happen, and essentially providing the security to our customers at that level. And last but not the least is a simple unified interface, which is one unified management interface for to deliver a easy management and a superior experience. So that's the capability of Cloudflare's connectivity cloud that we are offering to our customers. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what that really means from a specific sense. On the left-hand side, this is an example that I'm taking of one of our customers in Europe, who on the left-hand side is basically their entire sprawl. When we talk about the sprawl, this is the sprawl that they had, where they've been using zero trust security from one of the leading zero trust providers. They have a huge amount of investment made in across the different regions with different tools and different solutions, which are bespoke applications, and perhaps some of them might be the best of breed, but they're all disconnected, they're all disjointed. Their application performance and security is delivered by any number of vendors out there. And then, of course, they're running a huge amount of back office applications on SAP and running on an infrastructure network. Now, if you think about what's on the left-hand side, this is a typical IT landscape for a large organization that has been built over many years. Now, if you look at on each one of those pieces, each one of those applications or tools are best in class. They all are serving a specific purpose, and they have been they're really good set of tools that are really doing a great job. But when it comes down to being able to manage the complexity, able to control the cost, able to deliver scalability, able to essentially be ready for the future, a lot of these tools are disjointed. They cannot operate in the same way. Many number of people are needed to run them efficiently. You're spending a lot of money on maintenance and managing. So it just creates a huge amount of overhead that essentially the customers and the companies today are no longer able to afford. On the right-hand side is our effort that we were successfully able to transform their entire IT and security landscape by offering the entire set of Cloudflare portfolio of products. And you can really see in terms of the way the TCO came down, we were able to deliver tremendous amount of value, tremendous amount of capability while reducing cost to that matter. To make that real, I want to kind of talk a little bit about an experience that we have for one of our customers called Carrefour, which is, I think, is a big grocery chain in Europe. And their challenge was to improve security and reduce operational complexity by consolidating many tools into a unique integrated platform. This particular customer of ours was suffering from a huge amount of DDoS attacks. They were suffering from a lot of internet-bound phishing attacks and ransomware across their e-commerce applications, and they could not really grow beyond what they wanted to do. So they evaluated several applications, and then they finally were able to select Cloudflare, and the results have been outstanding. We were able to deliver 75% faster incident resolution, less than 10 minutes onboarding for the new sites, as well as drastically improving global web performance. A variety of our tools are used. We use DDoS, we use WAF, we use the whole power of a global network to be able to kind of bring this together. And I'm happy to say that about 400 plus locations of Carrefour are now being managed by Cloudflare. And in fact, we have become one of their primary vendors to be able to deliver both IT and security. So with that, I wanted to thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss about what Connectivity Cloud means. And of course, I wanted you to take a look at more of what we can do. This information is available. If you scan the QR codes, it'll take you directly to that particular site. With that, I wanted to see if you have any questions that we can answer. Heath, there's one question that has come up, and I wanted to kind of talk. Actually, there are several of them, but that I think has come up. The question is related to the discussion that I had in my session, as well as you talked about vendor sprawl and tool sprawl. Can you share a little bit of your thoughts on how companies are going to be able to, like what do you suggest the organizations steps to take when they're kind of looking at some of these limiting factors on vendor and tool sprawl?
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. I've been tracking this for quite a while. So what most organizations are looking at is tool consolidation at this point, right? So if you go back to the early 2010s, it was best of breed. And then mid 2015s, it was, the platform offering. And then that fell out of vogue again. And then with the advent of zero trust and all the moving parts that have to be involved in that, the big push towards it, a lot of organizations are moving back towards the consolidated tool view. So this has a lot of benefits, just inherent benefits, right? So it reduces the number of throats that you have to choke when you're trying to troubleshoot an issue or solve a problem. Now, there will be gaps and adjacencies and overlaps whenever you go with a platform type play or a consolidated vendor type play, but there's also a lot of opportunity there. You typically get better pricing. You typically get, it reduces the load on your analysts and the SOCs and the NOCs from an operational standpoint. There's fewer things that they have to learn and fewer consoles that they have to flip back and forth between when they're trying to troubleshoot an issue. Like I said, I did mention, excuse me, I did mention earlier that there is excuse me again, I'm sorry, I did mention earlier that there is a lot of issues around this specifically, and one of those things is the niche players. There's always going to be a place for niche technology. Sometimes it fills that gap. Sometimes it addresses a very specific need for that organization that is not just generally offered as part of a platform play. But the majority of my clients are going with the platform play, and for those the primary reasons, cost savings, analyst time, ease of use, functionality, and just really being able to work more effectively rather than just hopping from console to console to console to console.
I can't agree with you more on this, Heath. I mean, I think vendor sprawl has kind of, we are all in some way or the other are responsible for bringing to this state where there is such a huge proliferation of best of breed solutions, and the IT industry obviously has been innovating and driving a lot of that usage over the years, but it has come to a place where a lot of the innovation that we have done on these individual set of products is actually adding to this chaos and complexity, rather than giving this the benefit of what people were looking for. In fact, there's another question that has come up, which is very related to this, is that, look, what should companies do to kind of keep their trained professionals excited and motivated to be able to deliver to the best of their ability? I think you have a perspective, I have a perspective on in terms of how these especially in the world of cybersecurity, how do you kind of think about managing the personnel and the workforce to keep them motivated to deliver to the best of their ability?
Yeah, I mentioned this at the end of my my section, and I'm more than happy to jump back into this again. So there's a talent gap. There's a talent shortage and a talent gap. So creating opportunity for your workforce, be they NOC, SOC, enterprise IT, to upskill and cross-skill and develop within your organization is going to aid retention. It's really easy for somebody to get a job. There's just a glut of job openings out there. If you go onto LinkedIn or any of the job boards, everybody's screaming, saying, God, we need to get people in here. We need some well-qualified people. And so what happens, you get somebody that's really good. They spend a couple years there, and then they say, oh, well, I just got this offer for X, and they're going to give me the ability to do Y, or they're going to train me on something new. I want to do something different. Upskilling your personnel within your organization is going to be beneficial from a employee happiness perspective, the analyst experience, the employee experience, and it's going to give them the opportunity to grow and professionally develop within your organization. And that kind of eliminates that glass ceiling. Just because your network doesn't mean you can't do security, and vice versa, or any aspect of IT really. Let your folks explore other opportunities within your organization, and you're going to find it a lot easier to retain the talent that you work so hard to get into your organization.
And great response, Heath. One thing that I do want to talk about is that it kind of links back to this whole platform question. So if you actually have a platform where a lot of those components are automated and are delivered by one vendor, you don't really have to retrain and train people about things that come with any new vendor that comes on board, as well as take away their time on maintaining and upgrading and doing software patching and all that kind of stuff for bespoke applications or bespoke tools, and they can then rely on one vendor to kind of deliver that automation and optimization, and letting their own trained professional to do a higher value job and keep them motivated in the work. And I think that's one of the other things that we have seen, and obviously some of our customers are really implementing that. I think we might have time for one question or maybe two, but this is something that will be a miss. This is the question that I'm asking personally. What do you think of the role of AI in today's world in terms of being able to deliver this IT and control that we talked about? If you don't talk about AI today, people will feel that we are in 1970. So I wanted to kind of ask a question about what do you see the role of AI, and how do you see that changing the name of the game for every vendor in this market?
Oh yeah. Let's just dispel a couple of myths here. AI is not going to replace you. AI is going to assist you and augment your skill set and operationalize and make things easier from an analyst or or engineering perspective. It's going to go through larger troves of data at a speed at which was unthinkable even 5 years ago, and provide you the contextual information that you need to effectively troubleshoot a problem. As it evolves, of course, there's going to be more things coming up like, oh, well, it can do everything that I can do. But, you got to remember that AI can't think for itself. It's only based on what it's learning by the data set that it's been provided. So it's important to note the benefits as you're thinking about implementing AI within your organization, either from an LLM or ChatGPT or whatever you're going to do within your organization. It's important to note those things and be careful about the data that you allow it to be trained on, because you're essentially creating an easy way to access every piece of information that you own as an organization. So secure your AI. But from a vendor perspective, AI is everywhere. It's being used everywhere. A lot of it is machine learning. So be very granular when having the conversations with your prospective vendors around what AI is, what it does, and what it doesn't do. But aside from that, yeah, it's here to stay. I don't see it going anywhere except for up in the short to long term. Actually, yeah, it's going to be around.
So I think if I have to sum it up, Heath, what you're saying is, and this is something that in the words of our one of the biggest cloud provider, of course, is that AI will be one of the best co-pilots you will have, but you still need to fly a plane. You're still the pilot in that cockpit. So I think on that note, I thank you, Heath, for your time. And of course, we kind of are on time right now. There's a question that Evelyn Perez has asked, which is a little bit more specific about Cloudflare SSL capabilities, which Evelyn, if you're still there, we will address that question, the response to that on an email back to you. But for the purpose of this particular webinar, we are out of time. I thank you so much for taking your time and listening to what Heath and I have to say. And Heath, thank you again for your valuable insights and the work that you have done, trying to gather all that information with your CISOs. Thank you so much again, and have a great day.
So there you have it, another solution in our spotlight. We want to thank Amit and Cloudflare for their presentation, along with Forrester and Heath Mullins for their participation. And we appreciate your attendance as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.